Having discussed price discovery strategies, the next variable to think through as it relates to IOI submission for a private equity investment is the data used to bid. In due diligence, which technically starts the moment a private equity firm takes interest in a new opportunity, one of the objectives is to determine the accuracy of the information presented. The challenge as it relates to bidding is that whether you believe the information to be true or not, if every other party submits a bid assuming that it is, it puts the private equity firm discounting that information at a severe disadvantage. And you may be thinking, good riddance, why would I want to move forward with a bid that assumes inaccurate data? The reality is that if you are correct, eventually the other bidders will come to the same realization. This will require the sellers to address the inconsistency brought to light by the bidders collectively. And if the sellers choose to accept this information, there may be another round of bids. And it's possible that the investment banker will not contact you regarding this update because the rationale for your initial low bid was not communicated. The solution is to over-communicate this challenge. If the investment bank is allowing phone calls with the management team, request the opportunity to discuss the findings. If not, ask the investment banker to raise the issue with the sellers for a response. If you cannot get a response from either, it may be best to bid off the information so that you can continue to move forward with the process. I have always taken one of two approaches in this scenario. The first is to document the assumption required to achieve the valuation range stated in the indication of interest. To be clear, this should never be done with negative language. Instead, identify the assumption with neutral language. Something like, based on the information in the CIM, and assuming that the EBITDA addbacks are accurate, we believe that a fair enterprise value, yada, yada, yada. This way, I haven't insulted the analysis presented or the company, but by detailing the information I am most skeptical of in the letter, I maintain credibility in the event that this information turns out to be false and valuation needs to be revised. If I'm less interested in the transaction, then I will take a similar approach, but this time outline specifically why the valuation range I am submitting is likely to be lower than that of the other bidders. Now, if you're wondering what this could possibly look like, and as a most exaggerated example, I once reviewed a CIM with a pro forma income statement that showed a strong hockey stick projection. I couldn't reconcile the difference between the audited financials and the pro forma income statement in the CIM with any of the information that had been provided. The explanation offered absolutely blew me away. The management team intended to build a new facility, and the revenue derivative of this new asset explained the difference. The most recent historical year had been adjusted for this increase, even though the facility was not yet even under construction. Now, normally it's nowhere near that exaggerated, but I find exaggerated examples can be helpful for thought exercises. In that instance, assuming you really wanted to invest in the company, which EBITDA number would you work off of? The actual trailing 12-month figure, or the figure revised for the facility that doesn't exist? Now, an adjustment this crazy generally has to be acknowledged by the management team, especially when the asset required to generate the increase in revenue doesn't exist. But regardless, you need to be part of the process when this realization occurs. If you don't have an opportunity to meet with the management team and communicate your findings, it could cost you the auction. Which brings me to two additional points on this subject. The first relates to developing a relationship with management and key shareholders whenever possible. Access to the management team and key shareholders will vary from one transaction to the next, but in any process where it's possible, be sure to take advantage of it. The capacity to quickly develop a relationship during early due diligence can swing the transaction in your favor. This is especially true when you're looking at investment opportunities that are not already backed by private equity. Founder entrepreneurs that intend to remain in the business post-transaction are most influenced by a friendly relationship because they are identifying their business partner for the duration of the hold period. And the second is that sometimes you need to hang around the hoop. You'll hear this phrase often in private equity. Hanging around the hoop refers to a process that a private equity firm believes is likely to fall apart, giving them another opportunity to get involved. By way of example, if a private equity firm learns that a strategic bidder is currently in due diligence, they may continue to call on the investment banker on a biweekly or monthly basis to check on the status. Some strategics do not have the best close rate, and sometimes their due diligence process lags. If the process falls apart for either reason, the private equity firm that has been calling will likely be top of mind when the process reopens. The primary takeaway is that there is a strong human element to this process, and it should not be viewed as an isolated modeling task. The investment team should work hard to develop a network that will facilitate price discovery. Anything you can do to have an edge in the process without violating ethical standards or compromising the reputation of the firm should be explored. That said, some firms will take this way too far. Spend enough time in the industry, and you are likely to see examples where ethical lines are blurred or broken. At all times, remember that this industry is largely built on reputation, and that these activities should never be mirrored. All right, team. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful.